Hey, welcome back to Math with McKay. All right, we are continuing on with day 4 on area and perimeter. Today we're going to focus on word problems and word problems only. The previous days we had a mixture of just some regular problems and then some word problems that we could mix in. Today our focus is solely going to be on word problems. First thing we're going to do is we're going to review the independent practice solutions that you guys had from yesterday's independent practice, and we will go from there. The first question was talking about Rosa and her soccer, and she wanted to play soccer in her backyard. So for that, for all of these, you needed to create a rectangle or a triangle so that you could see an image and then place those numbers onto the image itself. And then from there, you would just add up all of the sides. So for the first one, you should have gotten 90 feet. For the second one, you should have gotten 30 feet. And then for the third one, you should have gotten 28 centimeters. All right. When we're dealing with word problems, you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what the question is asking and all of the other details. Typically, when you're talking about area, you are going to be filling something or putting it into and things of that sort. When you're talking about perimeter, you're going to kind of like cover or go around or kind of reconstruct or create kind of something along those lines. All right. So just kind of pay attention to what the question is asking and then go from there. So here is our first question. We'll focus on triangles first and then we'll go into rectangles. So Rick is making a homemade dartboard with congruent triangular pieces like the model shown. How much material will be needed to make the 10 triangular pieces on the dartboard? All right, so we're trying to figure out the area in which each of these dartboard pieces are going to take up. Not just one, but they want to know for the total amount of 10. So what we'll need to do is we will need to use the formula A is equal to 1/2 base times the height, like we did on day 1. All right, and I like to use my key. So we will use the numbers from this particular triangle here, and then we'll also have to multiply that by 10 because they want to know the information for all 10. So when we're reading these problems, we want to make sure that we're answering the question in its entirety. Congruent just means that the shapes are the same exact shape and the same exact size. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and solve out the problem accordingly. According to this problem, each one of the triangles has a base of 4 and a height of 14. So for B, I'm going to say 4 inches. And then for H, I'm going to say 14 inches. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to substitute these into our equation. A is equal to 1/2 base times height. So instead of us using the letter B and the letters H, we're going to now take these numbers and substitute them in. So it's equal to 1/2 of 4 times 14. So then we multiply from left to right, and we're going to take 1/2 of 4. 1/2 of 4 is 2, and then take 14 and multiply it by 2. So the area is going to equal to 2 times 14. So the area is equal to a total of 28 inches squared. All right, and when it comes to area and perimeter, your units are going to be different. When it comes to the area, it is going to be inches or units squared. When it comes to perimeter, it is just going to be the unit itself. So here's another question, and this question is talking about Aaron, and he needs to replace the triangular frame of an old bicycle. What is the least amount of material he would need to reconstruct this triangle? All right. So what this question is asking us to do is they want us to figure out what the outside, because the frame makes up the bike, what the outside of this particular triangle is going to make up. So we will use the formula P is equal to A plus B plus C. And then we'll go ahead and we will solve this out. So it doesn't matter what you say A is equal to, or B or C. So just as long as you use the numbers that are given within the problem, all right? So we'll say A is 90 inches, B is 45 inches, and C is 102 inches, okay? So then we'll go ahead and we'll take these and we will add them together. So 90 plus 45 plus 102. So I'm going to take these two and I'm going to add them together first. 90 and 45 gives us 135, and then plus 102, combine them together to get a total of 237 inches. Notice we did not put square on there. All we had to do was put the unit that we started off with, okay? So it's really just that simple when it comes to reading and making sure that you're breaking down what the question is asking. Now we'll jump into the next slide, which we're talking about rectangles. All right, now we have to figure out whether they're asking us to find the area or the perimeter. This question is kind of similar to the last question if you pay attention to what the question is actually asking. So it says Joe is going to build a fence around his rectangular garden that measures 125 yards by 100 yards. What is the minimum amount of fencing he will need to fence his garden? This question is similar to the last question that we just did, where it talked about the least amount or the minimum amount. So we're also going to utilize the perimeter formula when it comes to dealing with this. Notice that there is not an image given to us, so since there isn't an image given to us, you always do what? Draw your image out. So I'm going to draw out a rectangle. And just because they use the words by, it doesn't mean that they don't give you the length and the width. That is the length and the width. So 125 yards by 100. That is the length and the width. 125, and then I'm going to put 100 and then yards. And the formula that we used for the rectangle was P is equal to twice the length plus twice the width. Then we go ahead and we solve these out, and then we substitute, or we can write our key. We can say L is equal to 100 and W is equal to 125. We can go ahead and do P is equal to 2L plus 2W, or we can just take it and add the sides up together, where it'll be 2 times 125 plus 2 times 100. All right. 2 times 125. 2 times 125 gives us 250 plus 2 times 100, which is 200, and then you add them together for a total of 450 yards. Way is too confusing, again, we can just go ahead and say that 125 plus 125 plus 100 plus 100, and then just add them together. 125 and 125 again gives us 250 plus 100 and 100 gives us 200 for a total of 450 yards. All right. Now we will deal with, again, the rectangle. and we're trying to find out the area in this case. It says Paul is going to buy a rug for his den that measures, 12 feet by 14 feet. How many square feet will he need to buy? So notice that they talk about square feet in the question itself. When they specify square feet, you automatically should red flag and say, oh, area, all right? Because the units for area, it has the exponent at the top, and the exponent is an exponent of 2, and 2 is equivalent to the square, okay? So again, we don't have an image, so you always draw your image out just so you can have a visual. So we need, and then it says 12 feet by 14 feet. And then we're using the formula P is equal to 2L plus 2W. We go ahead and we substitute, you can write your key. L is equal to 12 and W is equal to 14. And we substitute it in. Excuse me, we are not doing perimeter, we're doing area. So the formula for area is LW, right? So then we take 14 and multiply it by 12, 8. Put your units once you finish. All right. All right, here we go with the independent practice. All right, if you just kind of like utilize the previous questions that we went over together and answer these questions, it should work out fairly easy. If you have to replay the video and rewatch it, just go ahead and do so. For your independent practice questions, we want you guys to, do the same exact thing that we were doing previously. All right, we want you to determine whether you have to find the area or the perimeter in the two questions that are given to you. And then we want you to go ahead and solve it utilizing the formulas that is given. So if the question is asking you to find the formula when it comes, find the area when it comes to a triangle, you want to use 1/2 base times height. If the question is asking you to find the perimeter when it comes to a triangle, you take the numbers and you just add them all up. When they don't give you a image, you always want to make sure that you draw your image out. Okay, so that is the first two questions that we want you to do. And then here are the next two questions. Again, following the same rules. Notice that these ones you don't have an image at all, so you always want to draw your image out in order for you to go ahead and solve it and make sure that you're solving it correctly. Pay attention to what the question is asking. If the question talks about square feet, or if they specify square feet, you're going to talk about, or you're finding the area. If the question is asking about the minimum amount or how much material might be needed to go around or cover the whatever the image is, then we're talking about perimeter. Just making sure that we utilize the correct formula for each of them. Again, the formulas are in some of the previous lessons as well as in these lessons. Just go ahead and make sure that you are reviewing. Also, we want you to make sure that you check out Dreambox for about 10 to 15 minutes a day, just to kind of brush up on some of the things that we're doing throughout the weeks. Please make sure that you enjoy the rest of your day. If you can, get out a little. Don't go too far though. Have a great day. And this was Math with Miss McKay.